What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Julissa Contreras, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Who Brunch, the podcast where we have all of the conversations they say you can't have at the dinner table, but baby, at the brunch table, anything goes. And this week, episode 1 of season 8, we have a very, very, very special guest. This person is a powerhouse. When I tell you I have witnessed them not only help heal communities and transform people's ways of being through plant medicine and soul work, I have been in the blows of fighting some demons with this person. We are Ghostbusters. I am so proud of her journey and the ways that despite discomfort and challenges, she relentlessly continues to be born again and die again in order to bring the medicine to the community that needs it the most. And I'm thrilled to have you here today. Lindsay, who the fuck are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm over here trying to contain my giggles like, I'm a giggler for sure. My name is Lynsey Ayala Rinaldi, aka Ghostbuster with my sis over here. I'm a Bronx-born New Yorican. I am a mother, a wife. I am a medicine person, an alchemist. Sometimes I'm a writer. I've been dibbling and dabbling. I'm the owner of Yabisi and the owner formerly of Bread and Butter, which I recently closed out after a 10-year cycle. I feel like in our community, a lot of folks know me for my work in psychedelic and spiritual plant medicines and creating safe spaces for community to learn, practice, and experience transformative happenings with one another.
Transformative feels like an understatement.
We've been in the jungle together, that's why, because
Literally.
it was different there.
Absolutely. And like you've had such a beautiful journey and not only has it been beautiful to see that your offerings grow and expand over the years, it's also been beautiful being a part of the community to see how the work has worked in people, right? Like seeing people who have benefited from some of these practices, people who've even said, oh, I'm afraid to try, let's say, mushrooms because there are so many stigmas, and then walking into your spaces and having these transformative experiences, but it being raw and real and not this like, we're taking you to the jungle of such and such and charging you $1 million to like administer this journey, but the people don't have integrity. And I think that what's beautiful about your integrity is not that it's pitch perfect, but that it is one that has been built through surrender and challenge and acceptance of just what is, which is what I think, all of the spirits of the plants are really looking for. So I just I'm always like, Lindsay, all the flowers. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what has been something that has been inspiring and continuing to show up in that way of, all right, we have to surrender. We have to make it through the challenges of the season.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking about even just running a business and how spiritually like confronting that can be, especially the type of business that I stepped into. I come from like a long line of botanica owners. Like I'm 7th generation. And although my mom didn't pick that up and my grandma had her own version, I'm, finding my own iteration through my expression, through my lived experiences, thinking about the ways that my family have like processed and like put out the spiritual work for people. I was like, yeah, I get it logistically. Like I get the businessing of it. I understand that, but I didn't realize how, and I fell into this work. I went to art school for painting. I thought I was going to be teaching something different. I knew I'd always be in a teaching role. I know that that's definitely been something I've been drawn to, but I did not imagine that I would be taking people on soul retrieval journeys and teaching them about mushroom medicine, teaching them about Taino medicines. I've been finding myself out loud. Like I've really been practicing out loud. It's been so beautiful because my work is so rooted in community. We've been around for 10 years, but it's grown literally through word of mouth. Like you was cracking up and you're like, people never touched mushrooms or never even touched cannabis. And then all of a sudden they're at Bread and Butter, like for a cannabis breathwork ceremony. And that also has been so transformative in understanding, as a vessel, as a person who is an instrument, the capacity to hold. And sometimes we don't even realize what spirit is doing, like holding space for people to come with their parents, like their mothers, to a cannabis workshop, like families doing microdosing with teenagers and both parents, like, full families microdosing together and trusting me to guide them on these journeys. It's been amazing and also a constant conversation with my imposter syndrome self that I'm like, "Oh my god, who do I think I am?" But then, trusting the transmissions that come through because sometimes, yes, it is me. Yes, I have been studying, like actively studying since I was 20 years old. I'm 37 now. Like intentionally studying. But a lot of it is that trust of spirit is speaking, we are channeling something greater than us. So it's something that I come toe to toe with, like all the time, especially recently. Like, and some folks who have been part of our community know I just closed out bread and butter at the top of the year, literally trusting spirit, trusting your Baba, like trusting Elegua to tell me, girl, let it go. And I was like, no, so literally trusting spirit and being like, all right, this 10-year career that I've literally poured myself into, I gotta let it go because something new wants to come through. I don't even know what it really is in moments. I'm starting to really like see the form of it, but the way that I process is to do it out loud. And, launched Yabisi. I launched the product line. The school is coming. So I'm doing it out loud and in conversation with our community constantly.
I love as you were talking, I'm like, see, this is why she a real one, because you already know like, it's not about you. It's about being the vessel. And obviously you are a part of it. And so your human experience is intertwined with it. But I think that the real trust and technique that you have is not even just all the knowledge that you've accumulated over the past 17 years, but it's the practice of that trust. The
Mhm.
practice of being able to say, yes, I have vision and can direct myself, but if I let a different level of energy direct me, then the flow of where I want to go might be better than what I imagined in the first place,
For
right?
sure.
So I think that you're such a testimony to that. And we'll be talking about surrender a little bit later. But I do want to hear a little bit more about Yabisi in its iteration now and the school. Tell us a bit about the school, which I'm super excited.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So Yabisi means trees in Taino. Tree medicine is something that I've been working with for a long time. And I think it's something that we really need right now as humans, humaning the world right now. That interconnectedness, that like groundedness, that knowing of yourself, that feeling of wisdom coming out and through, and that cycle of rebirth that we're constantly in, trusting that. So Yabisi is intended to be a tool house for folks. Like we have a botanica, but it's really a channeled botanica that actually came through while I was pregnant with my daughter. She's 2 now. So I've been sitting with the medicines, tweaking them, working them, sitting with them, seeing what wants to come through, what new formulations want to come through. So we have everything from spiritual tools like our own Florida waters to tobacco waters to a whole arsenal of flower essences and vibrational medicines. We always have our 30-day microdose experiences as well, which grew a little bit in size over the last year. Smoke or steep. So like different ways that I like to work with community. These are the ways that people can take that ritual and weave it into their daily expression every day. And this is leading up to a school, the School of Remembrance. I feel like I mentioned I've been on this journey for 17 years. And I'm so grateful that I came into this life with a very adventurous spirit and being like, yeah, I'll go travel to the Amazon. Like, I'll take that bus with that people. Like, I don't even speak Spanish that well. And we're going to happen on the bus and we're going to go because spirit was like, go, or being able to go back to Puerto Rico. Like, I didn't grow up going to the island. I didn't grow up connected to the Caribbean culture in the way that some of my friends and peers were. Like, I feel like, New Yorkers are very like a little over here, a little over there. We speak Spanglish. So I always had a slight disconnect, not even knowing family. They're just plopping there. So it's like years of pulling pieces together. And like, I call it like finding my fragments, like fragments of my soul that wanted to come back. And I know that not everybody is able to go travel to the Amazon, to go travel to Brazil, to go to Puerto Rico or DR, but you want to understand your cultural practices, your spiritual practices, the medicine practices of the Caribbean diaspora, the African diaspora, some elements from Amazonian rainforest medicines. And so I'm creating this space for folks to be able to reconnect in that way and learn from me, learn from my practices, but also learn from my peers, from my teachers, from elders, from spiritual leaders, and really just offer like a fundamental, like the fundamentals of medicine work. The world is shifting so much. The world is shifting so much. There's like it's like spiritual warfare. And so many of us don't feel tethered to our bodies. Like I have clients who I'm seeing and a running theme is disassociation, feeling really out of body, not knowing how to slow down, not knowing how to find rituals and practices to come back to self. And I'm like, this is a version, I think this is my expression of what I think is needed in this time. And I've been sitting with it again for like almost over 2 years now, and it's coming. I always give things timelines. I have like so much Capricorn in my chart. So I'm like, if I'm going to do like this, it's like this, like this, like this. And I think people see me and they're like, oh, she's so flowy and like she works with spirit and plants, but I'm pretty type A. So it's been a practice of this isn't its final, like it's not ready to come out yet. So I've been honoring that.
What's super beautiful about your work when you talk about plant medicine, like I feel like cannabis use, like we're from the Bronx, right? And I feel like the cannabis culture I grew up around before I ever used cannabis was one where it was like, oh yeah, they in the stairwell smells like fucking blood paper and like the sipes and
First
like,
experience in the stairwell.
like I'm just like, like that energy of like what smoking was, which for me, and I also went to an art school, I went to LaGuardia Performing Arts. And so like the first time that I was around peers that were white kids and like they had a completely different culture and relationship to weed and smoking and blah blah blah, and I remember when I would like use bowls or bongs and be with my friends in the Bronx and they like, what you using that for? Like I'm running my L with my tobacco, with my grabba, with my, and it's so interesting because we create these rituals and sometimes they don't see the medicine in like what the practice is. So by the time, fast forward to my beginning exposure to bread and butter, like I never really respected cannabis as like a plant medicine at that point. And not because there was no respect to be given, but because I just hadn't seen it contextualized that way. I've only seen it demonized. So to me, I was like, yeah, it's like hippy dippy. So that's where I sort of landed with my cannabis use. Like, yeah, it's hippy dippy. I'm creative. And when I
Right.
smoke,
This is my hippie shit. I'm an artist.
right? Like I can write so easily when I smoke. It's so helpful. Like,
Yeah.
and I had that, but there was even a lack of authenticity or not authenticity, a lack of integrity with which I was in that because those things were true. But by the time I came around to this idea of cannabis as plant medicine, and during COVID, you had ran this cohort where we did some like microdose journeys, but you had talked about cannabis in one of our like first group sessions. And I was like, yo, for real? Damn. Right. And so like it really transformed what my relationship with cannabis was in a way that was so powerful. And I say all this to say that sometimes in our communities, there are people who see the work we do as either they say woo, which is a word that I feel like is a little bit derogatory, if you will. Cause I'm like, why are you downplaying? It's not woo. It's something deeper and connected. And woo feels like a word that I think of like not tethered and just like
Right.
not
Love.
centered and grounded. And it's so the opposite. Or they think, oh, that's some bruja shit. That's some santeria shit. And like, again, the stigmas and things. And so they're afraid to say, okay, my relationship with something like plant medicines, whether it is cannabis or shrooms or something else, right? Because we talk about those two, but there are other plants that serve as medicine.
For
like
sure.
to have a relationship with the trees, with the plants is like, does not mean you need to get crowned in Santeria, right? Or does not mean, you know what I mean, that you have to become like a jungle plant medicine practitioner and all that. And I say jungle plant practitioner just because, again, there's been a culture of people who have come to the surface who I think abuse what that lifestyle is and like really like scam people.
Mm-hmm.
And so to know that you, rather than saying, oh, I'm going to go where the money resides and try to, because you could very well have said, oh, I'm a priestess of this and come to this jungle and I'm going to thousands and thousands of dollars. But you instead came to the community where people were either curious or maybe just completely not informed in the truth and met them where you're at with your authenticity. Like, I don't think you carry an energy or persona. It's like you are who you are. Like, we could vibe how we vibe. We could meet at the stairwell too and like chill.
Right.
You know what I mean? The duality that you represent is really powerful. And I think that the growth of the ending of bread and butter into Yabisi, like even it having a Taino name, we're just going deeper into the roots of what we can be and the duality or the multiplicity, right? Because it's more than two tracked, like of who we can be. And so I just want to give you kudos and your flowers for being a model in the community for that, because again, while everybody's journey might not mirror yours, the opportunity for meaningful change that you offer really has transformed lives, including mine. So just flowers, flowers to you. All right. So now we're going to move into our brunch questions. What is your favorite brunch plate?
All right. So if I'm going to brunch, I'm probably picking a Mexican spot. That's my favorite. So I'm gonna go chilaquiles, salsa verde, some sort of protein depending on where I'm at. Definitely some eggs. But I'm also hardcore. Sometimes I just need some pancakes and like bacon.
Yes.
So it's either very savory. I'm like, give me the chilaquiles and a little like something, or give me like sweet breakfast.
Yes. My friend who's like, "Oh, what you ordering?" and seeing them being like, "You want to split the pancakes?"
Yo,
Like, you know
yes,
what I
I'm
mean?
all about that. That's my favorite way to have brunch. I'm like, we sharing, like we this I want a little bit of everything, you know?
You know? And so with that plate, what are you drinking?
I probably smoked on the way, but I'm definitely probably definitely smoked on the way. I love mezcal. And it depends on like who I'm brunching with. Like if we got time and we know we're gonna be sitting here, I'm gonna get a mezcal like old fashioned, and I'm gonna sip slow. We're gonna be conversating. But if it's just a kiki, I'm gonna have a mezcal margarita. But that's my chosen spirit. Like that's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they call alcohol the spirits for a reason. There's something in there too. And the mezcal,
Mhm.
I don't know what, wisdom or ancestor walks with mezcal, but mezcal hits.
Yeah,
And I
I
love it.
fuck with it. I don't know either, but I'm like, we right here.
Yeah, it's definitely it gives elder energy, but like still like stoic, but and like sexy, like even how you said, like, oh, I'm gonna
Yes.
drink like an
It's
old
just
fashioned.
so nice with a little weed, a little mezcal. Like that's my favorite. I'm like, that's my cheeks are rosy. I'm a little warm, but I'm definitely like, talking my shit. It's a good time.
I love that. So, what is your favorite bochinche topic to discuss over a meal?
I go mad deep. Like even we see each other for 30 seconds and we're like, girl,
The
I have
whole
no idea what's happening current events wise. Like I don't know what's going on with Cardi B and this and that. Like, I have no idea. But tell me about what happened in your dreams. Like, let's decode. I'm also a mom of a toddler, like an entrepreneur. Like, the time that I get to sit with friends and brunch, I'm like, this is so nice. And sometimes that's the same for my friends because everyone is so busy. So it's like we come together and it's like sometimes you just want to like not events, but like really tell people catch up. Like this is what's going on with me. It's the time that we get to bond and reconnect. So I'm like, I don't care what's happening in the outside world. Like what's going on in our bubble.
I love that. So, tell me a little bit about what it was like going out to eat when you were growing.
I was very much a we have food at home kid. If my parents were doing that, we are probably like getting takeout because they were like always working or I was cooking. So when it happened, it was like a special occasion, you know? But yeah, definitely pizza Chinese food. That was the
No, the Chinese spot. I grew up 2 blocks away from a Chinese spot. Shout out to Great Wall. Okay, on what 7th and
Mhm.
Noble. Like that would be the spot.
Honestly, when I'm out of New York for long periods of time, that's what I miss. Like I want the like hole in the wall Chinese spot. Like give me
They
the Dutch
don't.
sauce on my wings. Like don't fuck with me.
They don't do it well in other places. Like I've yet to find, and I'm living out here in Denver, Colorado, and no shade
Mhm.
to Denver, but like I have yet to find a Chinese spot that
It's
hits
just
out here.
different than New York. Like I remember I went to go visit São Paulo with my husband and he's like, "Oh, there's a part of the city called Liberdade, which is like their Chinatown essentially." He's like, "Nah, like I've lived in New York forever. Like the New York Chinese food does not compare to Brazil's." And I'm like, "It don't. Like
So,
it's not the same. Like New York is the best." It is like you cannot.
I love that. There's a spot in Puerto Rico. I will not remember the name right now, but it is like one of those Latino Chino like spots.
I
And
love those fusion spots.
I love those fusion spots. I was gonna say the only other spots that I feel like, but it feels like it has its own like flavor profile and it hits in its own way. But the
Mhm.
chicken wings from that spot, I went with Skittles one year. Shout out to Skittles, like, and that chicken was that. I was like, oh, this is hitting.
Like,
This is not
okay, this
the
is
chicken
hitting.
wings from Great Wall, but these chicken wings hit and got its
Doing what it
own
does.
flavor. So Puerto Rico, I'm saying that to say shout out to Puerto Rico because I feel like that's the only other place that I've had Chino food where I'm like, you know
You're
what?
like,
I
this is
fuck with
pretty
this.
good.
It's not exactly what I get at home, but what it
Mhm.
is
I
hitting.
love it. I love it. Oh my God. Yes.
Wonderful. Now we are going to move into our Tuta Loca section where we're shouting out motherfuckers who are doing the most. And this week, rather than focus on the multitude of things that we can call out, we are in the beginning of the week where, like, yesterday, the president released a video where he was like on a plane taking a shit on people who were protesting, like this weird AI video. There's weird things happening on the internet and things shutting down. We're at a time where, AI is taking hold, but we're also seeing communities that are like dying off of the ways that these centers are affecting these communities. And there is no shortage of chaos. So we could shout out so many things, but I think when the world is in such a difficult place where it's like hemorrhaging,
Yeah.
essentially, we need to think about care. And so
Mhm.
I wanted to hear from you as a wise plant lady, better title than that, but as a wise plant lady, what are some plants that we can use as medicine in this time to help regulate our nervous system and help us get through all of this chaos and noise that's trying to throw us off of our path?
The first one that comes to mind is nettle. Like, I think during these times, we need to really tap into the ancestors that are the warriors. We really need that sort of energy. We can be protected. We can, yes, take the oat straw for your nervous system. Yes, but like build your system up, like build your immune system up, be nourished, be protected. Nettle has the medicine of Ogun and Ochosi. When you see nettle, it is like super dark leafy greens. When you touch it, it's covered in spikes, like you could barely see them, but you touch them and it's like your hand is burning. Little, if you're first touching it, you're like super shook, but it's actually like an analgesic. It's like removing pain from your body. It's helping your like blood to circulate and flow. So when you take it as a tea, like when you get it from the herbal store, the needles are removed like in a specific way, but you have it as a tea and it's protective. It teaches us boundaries, just like the plant itself with the needles. It teaches people sort of how to like come correct, even
Mm,
energetically, without you having to really like be overtly, I'm like putting my chest out like a warrior.
yeah, right.
But even on a physical level, like it's super nutritive. It helps to like restore our immune system, our nervous system. It helps us to feel grounded and very like level headed. And it supports our heart, like the circulatory system and courage, like giving us the courage to be ourselves, to like root in these spiritual practices, to be courageous to take 10 minutes to have a soothing cup of tea to like set your tone and vibration for the day. I love to talk about plants, like, yes, on the physical aspect, because we got human bodies, like we're humaning. We need something to support us. But we're also these spiritual beings having this human experience. So I also like to note the spiritual context around these plants and, just naming the deities that walk with them and who we're calling in closer. And yes, I will always call in Ogun and Ochosi, like, please walk with me. Please, like, clear the roads.
Absolutely strong warriors. And I feel like I love that choice of recommendation. One, because I actually did not know about it. So another note.
Mhm.
But because I think that, again, different people have different relationships where they think all this stuff is woo woo and whatever. But like, whatever, you follow Harry Potter, Star Wars, all these larger than life narratives, like, dare to say, oh, might this help my body? And how can I carry the story that comes
Mhm.
with this medicine in order to like hype me up? Because it's like, I feel like it's the healing is part the actual physical power of whatever you're using to heal, whether that is plant medicine or not. And then the other part is your willingness to be open to receive, right? Because that resistance, right, then creates, and resistant might look like, oh, I take the tea once, oh, I don't like how it tastes, I'm done. Or, oh, I did it for a few days, oh, I didn't get the results I wanted, I'm done. Right. But like, even quiet, like, trust of like, oh, I don't know if this shit is gonna work, but I'm gonna stay consistent, right?
Mhm.
Allow for you to open up. So you don't always have to be fully open and ready to accept it. But if you're willing to accept that commitment and repetition will give you the opportunity to say yay or nay.
That's very real. And I think that's important. And I love that you're mentioning that because I think when people are working with plant medicines, they forget that it took us to our big age to get to a certain place where we need this support or this like correction or this like softness. We're so used to Amazon Prime. We're so used to like things happening very quick. Try this in 3 weeks, da da da. Try this in 5 days. Like plants don't work that way. They are always working, but sometimes when you are at a place where you're so like for with nettle, for example, like you're lacking nutrients, you're lacking courageous, like self-support. You cannot have it met so abruptly. Like sometimes change really needs to be like the river. Like it really has to carve slowly. It really has to remind us to flow. And it's gentle, like gentle medicine, like gentle warrior medicine. It's like a little bit, and you start to create a relationship. It's like titration. You're like expanding a little bit, strengthening a little bit, like seeing yourself a little bit more differently. And those are the results that last the longest. Like I've found, and I've studied clinical herbalism. I've studied all these different ways of working with medicine, pharmacology as well. Sometimes our body cannot receive the shock and like the heavy dosing of things. Sometimes we do need that, but sometimes like we need something gentle that's going to carry us through seasons. And that's beautiful thing about nettle. You can take it all year around. There's some plants that are good for in the moment. Like you probably shouldn't be taking it for longer than a few months, but nettle is like always at your side, always this protective warrior reminding you of your courage, your strength. So yeah, definitely give it time. I know that probably sounds like, girl, what? But try it. It's not going to happen in a week. Give it a couple months. I'm like, give it 3 months. Like try it a few times a week for 3 months and you will see a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that is great advice. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so let's move into our cheers where we cheers dope people doing dope shit. This week, my cheers is actually going out to Vida Valdez of the Almighty Pineapple because she has recently launched her podcast on Spotify, which is based in the series that she has been doing on TikTok and Instagram with different themes, boundaries, like going back to your inner child, decolonizing your faith, like all of these cool things. And, we both know Vida and have worked with Vida. And I'm really proud of her stepping into this and like figuring out ways to continue to share her medicine over the years, like the growth that she has gone through as a practitioner, but also just like her presence even online, I think has really mirrored a new level of maturity, right? Which is like,
Mhm.
feels silly to say because like when I first met Vida in like 2017, I was like, oh, like this is like some blizzard. I was actually a little scared of her. I was like, well, I don't
Me
know.
too. I was a little intimidated. I was like, oh, I
I was
like her
like,
though.
I like her, right? Like I was like I fuck with her, but like she also looks like she'll body slam me and I'm scared. But
And she's like
she's
5 foot flat, like, and it's crazy.
and I'm like, I'm terrified, right? But I think that terror comes because she's such a powerful practitioner who is really built to go in the shadows in a way that, like, sometimes you got to fight fire with fire. She always likes to say, "Oh, I'm a triple fire sign." And baby, she's hot. She is hot. And I just think that I love that her heat has, not turned down, but it has found ways to warm people into
Mhm.
it, and not just like this hardcore like flame fire fire, but sometimes people need that. And so I think seeing the spectrum of her fire over the years has been really awesome. I'm excited that she has this podcast. Some people, don't really watch TikTok or Instagram, so this is now a new pathway to engage
Mhm.
with that, to, get that wisdom. And I have learned so much from her over the years. So I just wanted to make sure we shout her out today. And y'all
Shout out.
should check out the podcast, The Almighty Pineapple, streaming on Spotify and other platforms as well. I don't know all of them, but definitely on Spotify.
That's dope. I love her. And same. I feel like she's been such a guide. And I love that you said she's like this fire, but I feel like she reminds us of the fire we all have.
Mhm.
Like just, she's a little intimidating at first, but then you're like, oh no, she's just like Mama Bear. Like she really is. Like she just don't play. And in the best way possible. I cannot wait to tap into her podcast because people are just going to see how funny she is. She's so sweet. She's hilarious. She's like, yeah, she's fire auntie. Oh my.
Anything you want to shout out this week?
Yes, we're talking about herbal medicine and like while I make my own blends and everything, I have a good friend. Her name is Jocelyn. She owns a brand called The Curly Vegan. And my medicine cabinet is stocked with her stuff and our stuff. And she's so magnificent. She is an urban farmer. Like she has a beautiful, like giant plot where she grows so many of the herbs that she uses in her teas and in her powders. She really supports postpartum parents just through her own journey and finding medicines that have worked for her. She has a tincture called Mom Rage that
That
I
name.
fucking love. Like, and I feel like some people, we got to walk through it to retrieve the medicine. And her daughter is like a few years older than mine. So the medicine she makes, just the presence that she has online and the stories that she shares, I think are so medicinal. And I could not recommend her products more. Like, she's amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and I will credit Jocelyn with pushing me towards juicing, like, the openness and vulnerability that she displays in her content, and I even hate the word content because it really is
Like the
medicine to
art.
channel
Yeah. And her medicine.
through, and it's super powerful, and yeah, I love that you shouted Jocelyn out. Great choice, y'all. I second that motion.
Yeah. She deserves so many flowers as well. I love her.
So now we're going to move into our plate of the day, which is the journey of surrender. This topic came to me as most things do, where I was just like, what? I was like, all right, spirit, what do we want to talk? And they were like, surrender. And I was like, yes, I know I have to surrender, but I'm trying to chant. And they're like, no, surrender, like talk about that. Because I have been receiving the journey to surrender. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm going through this, but this is something that's happening really at a large scale where people are having to learn how to surrender at different levels. And then I had a moment where I was like, well, will this be a good topic to discuss with Lindsay? And then it was like, duh, you have been witnessing Lindsay surrender over and over again. And we talked a little bit about the closing of bread and butter and the closing of the physical shop. But you have been on a journey of surrender that has true. I mean, going back to being the art kid, like you thought you were going to just be an art teacher. And while you are no less of an artist because of the work that you do, you had to surrender a particular framework and image. Before we go deeper, I pulled a card. I pulled an animal medicine card to lead us into this conversation. The card that jumped out of the deck was the Black Panther. And the Black Panther is about embracing the unknown and confronting your fears of letting go. Surprise, surprise, surrender. Right. And so the Black Panther really asked us to go into the shadows and into the darkness to discover our path, right? To really allow ourselves to understand what our shadows is, but also what our opportunities are. And that darkness is also representative of keeping your head down and focusing on your healing and your personal evolution and not allowing all of these silly distractions to get in your way. And by silly distractions, I don't even just mean the obvious things where like, oh, well, like what company do you keep? Like you have a vice or a habit that's throwing you off. Sometimes the distraction is we say, oh no, but I got to do this for work. Oh no, but I got to do this for my family. Oh no, but I got to, and you keep tying yourself to something that you got to do. And that's a form of control. You're not necessarily surrendering to how might I show up in these spaces differently and surrender to what I need for my well-being in order to serve these spaces. Because ultimately the act of surrender is not even just the act of letting go forever. It's the act of letting go of what is now to evolve what is. And you can reconnect with some of these things, like especially when you think about family. It's not surrender and quit your job. It's surrender to how you're showing up to the work because there may be an easier way or a more powerful way that serves you and serves the people that you feel depend on you in a more powerful way. And we really cannot do that without entering a void. And the void is a scary place. It is dark. It is kind of, you feel untethered in some way, but I also like to think about it as like being in the womb, right? It's like going back into this inception and this beginning and knowing that you know nothing at all, but holding an awareness so that the things that come to you as weird or random as they may seem can get some time and attention to reveal to you how they're actually not that random or that weird, and they're actually yours. And it's wisdom that's yours to do. It's wisdom that's yours to share and embody. But we don't give ourselves the time to do that if we're always worried about, oh, but I got to go to this and that. Oh, but I got to do this. Oh, but we distract ourselves. So it's not just the way distractions live around us. It's the way that we create and hold on to distractions and call them responsibilities. So with that framing of the Black Panther, I would now like to go back to art school, Lindsay, and I would love to hear what was the call to surrender early on before you knew that this path was the one that you needed to start to walk, because you are not even at the end of your path. And I'm saying that direct.
Yeah.
You're not even done. So like,
nah, there's much to do. There's
it's
much
like
to do.
even the final form either, but it's such a developed form from art school Lindsay. So what was that call to surrender like?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, even just going to art school, like being the first person in my family to be in college, be a college graduate. I saw myself and still do see myself as an artist, but I imagined myself in this different storyline. The jobs were coming in. I was working at a museum at 23, 24, like having a really great, like being offered a director role to help with a nonprofit. And I was like, yes, this is like, I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna get benefits. Like, oh my God. I was also living in the Bay Area at the time. I was in San Francisco, a city that I had like dreams of being in since I was a kid. But on the weekends, I was working on a cannabis farm. I started in 2010 and I was falling in love with this plant in this way that was so different. I started trimming in like on my last year of college. And in the school I went to, it was very like non-traditional. I had my own studio. I met with my professors for critiques. Like I just had to produce bodies of work. My math class was a class in dream work. Like it was Hogwarts. Shout out to San Francisco Art Institute. They've closed in the last few years, but um I had this space that really supported exploration and what it is to be an artist, not just as a visual artist, but as a living artist. And I was working again with this cannabis plant, and this plant was giving me downloads in new ways. And I've been smoking since I was pretty young. You said growing up, like smoking in the stairwell, like having this specific experience with cannabis, and then going to Humboldt County and like being in my Timbs on a farm with like 8-foot cannabis trees. It felt like they were gigantic plants. And it was the first time plants really started to speak to me and help me to use my voice in a different way. I was receiving downloads on medicines to make, and I would call my grandma and be like, because they had other plants there besides cannabis. There's the farm is still up and running. They're amazing gardeners and like farmers and grew all types of things. So I had access to herbs and vegetables and berries and like fruits, like crazy. So I would have these downloads and create these medicines and give them to people on the farm. Then like take them we call it the hill, like when I got off the hill and gave it to my friends. And I was really falling in love with this work that I was like, this is crazy. This is 2000. I graduated 2012. So this is maybe around 2011 that I was really finding a place where it was time to pivot. And I was also being met with people who were inviting me to meditation spaces like in the Oakland Hills. And like I had never gone to a meditation space. Like, what the fuck is that? Like I have an idea, but I'm like, I've never been to a meditation space. So I'm being brought, like things started trickling in for spiritual growth and spiritual development and like piquing the curiosity. I feel like following your curiosity is really your intuition really speaking to you. And I just really went head on. Like after college, I studied with clinical herbalism because I wanted to understand cannabis from this clinical perspective. I couldn't imagine that I can say, well, the plant told me. It's like, yes, I could say that to some people, but like, what, like, let me understand this plant in that way. And when I got offered that opportunity to, work in this nonprofit, and have this role that I really was like working towards, I also got an opening on the farm to be there more full time. And it's crazy. Like I would have been moving to a new apartment, but on the farm, I was sleeping in a tent under a redwood. And I chose that. It was incredible, but like my family in New York, they're just like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to work with weed? It's not even legal. Like, what are you doing? You're studying fucking clinical herbalism? Like, what does that even mean? And I really trusted that. At that same time, I was working for an art store, like here and there. And I met this artist who was a marbler. Like he did this specific type of painting, like that I was really obsessed with. Anyway, I learned how to run a business through him. I was his assistant for years. So I was learning how to run a small artistic business while working on this farm, taking classes. So there were lots of things bubbling. And there was a period that came again where I decided to move back to New York. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I have all this art practice, all this medicine practice. let's see what happens. I'm going to go with some weed with me and like, see, I'm going to make some medicines. Like, cause I knew that I wanted to talk, cause I was bringing medicines home to my friends and having these different cannabis smoking experiences where I'm like, girl, let's put peppermint in it. Like, girl, let's put lavender in here. Like, I went to this meditation class and they told me this breath work, but it's really like when you're smoking weed. So like, let's just do that. Like, just, and my friends trust me. Like, shout out to my friends who are like, yeah, girl, I'll smoke that fucking lavender joint with you and do what is a pranayama breath work? All right, girl. All right, let's do it. So I was like, there's something here. Like there was something really calling me back home. And I moved back within a year. Like I was bartending. I decided to do an art gallery opening for Bread and Butter. I was like, I'm gonna do this thing called Bread and Butter because that I worked in the legacy world for 5 years at that point. Weed was my bread and butter. So my brand was Bread and Butter. And we did cannabis smoke blends, cannabis off, like cannabis ceremonies. I like had a period where I made clothing in that marbled way that I had learned from my mentor slash boss. And it's been years of just like refining and cutting and refining, but cannabis has been that really like guiding force. And so there's been series of surrender in 2000 and wow, cannabis, I feel like I'm like thinking about the trajectory of all of this, the like thread weaving it. And it's been in really pivotal moments where cannabis has led me to something new through ideas, through conversations. I feel like I'm a clairaudient person. So I receive messages through hearing myself speak to someone or hearing the person transmit to me. And I've just had so many experiences where sharing that plant over conversation or sharing that plant and reading a book or scouring the internet for research and coming up upon something that I had, a new spark is lit. Yeah. And I've had like different shops that needed to be closed because spirit was like telling me this isn't really it. In 2020, we opened House of Bread. And when I say we, it was myself and my ex-husband who was really like a partner in the business for the beginning, the inception of the brand. And then the pandemic happened. And I feel like that was a huge surrender point for a lot of us. I'm thinking about what you were saying where we keep ourselves busy. And I have been keeping myself busy from so many things like we had a 3,000 square foot loft where I was doing programming monthly. We had like live music events. We had cannabis ceremonies. We were teaching people how to grow their own cannabis plants on a fire escape in New York. Like there were so many things happening and I had to close my space and look at what was happening within. My health wasn't doing too well. I was not happy in my relationship. We were both like working it away and like smoking it away and like keeping busy it away. And everything kind of came to a standstill. And within a year, I returned to the cannabis farm. I like took a cross country trip because everything was shut down. Went back to the farm, slept under the redwoods, spent time by myself, then spent time with my ex-partner, spent time with friends. And through plant medicine journeying, that and understand there was a surrender that we both needed to allow ourselves to be taken by. We decided to split ways. And shortly after that, I decided to reframe Bread and Butter and really begin the process of how do I get more to the spiritual root of this? Because that's what I need. And oftentimes, as I'm experiencing, it's helpful to do it in real time with people in front of people because it's what it is. Like we're reflections of each other. It's hard to like see someone who's like, well, I figured it all out and here's how you do it. It's like, I don't know you, but you see, when you're seeing the person, it's like, I see how this has followed. Yeah. It's just been, series of little surrenders and big life-changing surrenders. And around this time last year, I was met with another form of surrender where I realized that it was time to let parts of that legacy work go and really shift what that looks like. Really thinking about the spaces that I want to walk into and how I want to shift my conversation around cannabis, around psychedelic mushrooms, around different ways that our ancestors really utilized and worked with these plants through these times of transition, because sometimes they are the catalyst and sometimes they are the support system. So that's where I've been at now, like deciding to close Bread and Butter, move into Yabisi and show these plants through a different light and trust that like you said, there's much to do. Like we're talking at a certain stop on our journey,
That's so beautiful. And I think that there's something beautiful in the fact that you even went back to a version of the void, right? Because we talk about the darkness and whatever. And sometimes the void is going back to basics. So if you go back to my womb analogy, it's like go back into the womb.
Mm-hmm.
You went back to that redwood. You went back to that tent.
Mm-hmm.
I this past summer, I was at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Healing doing a artist residency, and one of the artists had this installation where it was a tent, and she was like, "It's a womb. It's a representation of a womb." I was like, "Oh, I love that metaphor." But like, she created a womb. Like, I went in there, and there was just so much transformation. So just hearing you say, like, "Oh yeah, I went back to the tent in the redwood," and I'm like, "Oh, she went back to the void."
I
You
went
went
back
back
to
to
my
the
void.
void to be reborn again in that stage. And that is incredibly important. Another thing that you said that I want to highlight is when cannabis was not legal and all of the sense in the world did not point to cannabis, but your intuition was pointing you to cannabis. That is a testimony of how our intuition prepares us for what we cannot see. You had no real solid proof that there was going to be a
None.
clean for you to work with cannabis in this way, especially outside of the state of California, let's say, right? Like, there was just no promise of that. There was no indicator. There was nothing you could have used to predict, but you had to follow. So had you not followed the yes in your spirit, you would have not been prepared for when that pivot happened and you could emerge into the medicine. You would have been trying to learn and catch up and do all the years of work that you did prior to try to be ready for something now. And that sort of like rush, like, oh, this is the new hot thing. Like, let me rush to learn and become a part of this. We have a lot of people who practice in different ways who are not being led to do it. And I hate to say it that way, but like, not everybody's led to do the things that they're promoting. And I think that the internets are both a gift and a curse of being surrounded by people who say things that make sense and are really polished and are good at selling, but like, there are snake oil salesmen.
Be discerning. Like if something feels off, it probably is.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
okay if that's not your person. Like the person that you're meant to connect with will show up.
We are still not in a space where most people are moving with their own discernment. And it's because people have not learned to really connect with their intuition, which is that 101. The fact that you were allowing yourself to look at cannabis beyond the recreation that you were using it for and say, oh, it is giving me messages, like that in itself, accepting that, one big ass surrender, right? The first time I had a tree talk to me, I was like, nah, bitch, because I had smoked before. I was like, nah, you
Fuck, was I infused? Like what?
I was like, "No, and you got a wild ass imagination because you're a
Yes.
writer." And for so many years, that was my block, that I needed to surrender to the fact that, like, yes, whatever, Julissa, you think you're a creative genius and you have this wonderful imagination, but half the shit that comes to you, you could not fathom or make up yourself. And you know that. Give it up. Give it
Yes.
up and give the credit where it's due.
For sure. And I love that you said that. I feel like again, like the world is changing so much right now. And like we're at such a pivotal point where the earth is really sick. We know this. Like people are really sick. Spiritually, we're all really sick. You don't think the plants are fighting for their lives just the way that a lot of us are? Like the veil has been really thin. It's not just because it's spooky season or whatever. Like the veil has been very thin. And I think specifically our generation and the generations that are coming up now, there's a sensitivity and understanding that that tree did say something to me. Like, I don't know why I feel so like attracted to this tree. I feel so safe next to this tree. I just want to like touch this tree's bark. These are energies, like these are life force energies that are constantly in connection with us. And like, just be open to it. You're not crazy. The tree's not going to be like, boo. It's just a knowing that comes, like just an understanding, a feeling that overcomes your body that you're like, oh my God, like that tree just said hello to me, I have a teacher, her name is Mariam Hasnea, and being out in nature with her and understanding and seeing that in practice of being like, you have to greet it with a hello. And it's not a hello like, yo, what up, waving. It's like hello with your heart, hello with your aura, hello with your openness. Yes, I know that is woo, but it is real. And a lot of us are being communicated to. So like just smoke the weed and be with the trees, y'all. Like I promise you be all right.
Plants be talking, the animals be talking, the
Look,
sky, the clouds, like, y'all, there's no limit.
everything. Look up at the clouds. There's symbols there for you too. Like, oh my goodness.
I think my child like knew from the moment, and I hate to use Pocahontas as an example because like Disney and things, but
That was our
even
first
at that
example.
age, that was such a strong example. And I was like, I be fucking with the colors of the wind. I know them.
Right. Grandmother tree. Yes, I got a grandmother tree too, sis. Like, thank you. Grandmother
Like,
Willow, whatever her name.
Yeah, grandma grew up. And I feel like that surrender, right? So, like, I want people to walk away with, yes, the surrender of your spiritual journey and what's for you, but the surrender of what this matrix has taught us. What we have been told and conditioned to believe in itself is revolutionary. You don't want to talk to trees, fine. Don't fucking talk to the trees.
That's right.
But give yourself
You know
the
you're thinking about it.
to surrender, right? Like kind of just like surrender. What if none of this matters? What if that is true? And it's hard to say that in a war, genocide, torn world. But the truth is, and I say this with reverence and understanding that the pain of people in the world is something that the earth also grieves with us, right? Is
Mhm.
that this stuff is always happening. And that is why nature teaches us about cycles and that there's different seasons for different things. And so this season, autumn, fall, shedding season is really a great time. So, like, for anyone listening to this, if there is a level of surrender that you have been fighting against, dare yourself to explore that surrender. Dare yourself. The worst that can happen is you say you felt nothing and you don't feel revolutionary change within you. I almost want to bet millions of dollars to tell you that that won't be the case. That there will be some, even if it is just a slight crack or slicing open that is going to allow you to emerge, that every little cut opens something up that is yours to pursue. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. This is not instant gratification.
For
I
sure.
would love, Lindsay, if you shared a lesson or blessing that you have gotten from your process of surrender and share any advice for anybody who is stuck in the practice of surrender and just is resistant.
Yes. This is such a great question. And I want to talk about when we are in that space of surrender or even not even knowing where to begin, like not even knowing where to start to slow down because our brains are moving at a mile a minute or it just doesn't feel possible. It's like I have this list and I don't have a moment to think about what do I need to surrender? Like I feel burnt out, whatever. There is this practice called the art of noticing. And the art of noticing really helps with the salience in our brain. Saliency is literally the function of our brain that tells us what to focus on, what to pay attention to. And sometimes we need to trigger our brain a little bit and it's like you're reprogramming. You're starting a new neural pathway by actively noticing things. So right now like you said, we're in shedding season. It's beautiful outside. Like if you're on the East Coast, like there's orange leaves, red leaves, yellow leaves. Like take a moment and just notice. Take a moment and notice the beauty in something. Taking a moment to notice the light reflecting in through your window onto the glass. Like taking a moment to take a deep breath. It's this art of noticing that helps us to build the saliency to notice the more beautiful things in life, like noticing moments to be grateful, being in that space of gratitude, even if it's a millisecond. If you do that a few times throughout the day, it's offering you a moment to slow down, to soften a little bit, to be more present. And as you build that presence and as you build that art of noticing, I think that softness really will show us where we need to be bringing more of that softness. Like, I'm actually, there's grief in my body, there's resentment in my body, there's shame in my body, like, and then from there, doors will open. You're starting to do the practice. You're noticing the signs are there. Sometimes we just need to slow down for a moment to notice what the universe is telling us. And yeah, I hope that that's helpful. It's very simple, but again, it's slow. We cannot shock our systems into things. This is a very natural progression that is completely your own journeys. Finding your ways to investigate, explore the art of noticing.
I love that because it's in the rush of getting things done and hustling and making it that we lose sight of noticing. And sometimes when we hit really big walls, we're like, how could this be? How did this happen? Why has God forsaken me? And all of the elements, trees and animals included, be like, sis, we were trying to tell you the whole time. Sis, we were trying to communicate. We tried.
Yeah.
And so we had to let you hit a wall so that you would wake up because you weren't surrendering to the process. And so I think that while we think of surrender as hitting a big wall, it doesn't always have to come that way. It doesn't have to come out of chaos. Surrender can come out of choice. And I think that art of noticing is the choice to be open to the messages that are preparing you. Because sometimes the messages are, listen, some shit's about to go down. We can't stop it. You
Yes,
can't.
but be prepared. And shit is never gonna not go down. Again, from the micro levels of like daily inconveniences to life's like devastations, like things are gonna be constantly happening. And it's up to us to how are we gonna be able to carry ourselves through? This is a solo journey. Yes, you have your family, your loved ones, them too, but the best thing you can do for your family and your loved ones is to show up fully as yourself and to show up fully in your power. And it takes a moment to slow down, to recognize your power, hear your own voice, hear your own authenticity. People are like, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that. Where's my person? Where's my job? How are you looking for something if you can't even listen to yourself? You're not putting out a signal that is being transmitted to what you are seeking. What you're seeking is seeking you always. Yes, I truly believe that. But we have to slow down enough to listen to our own frequency, the own vibration we're putting in through these tiny acts of noticing. And you're saying like willingly stepping into surrender. I willingly stepped into surrender this year for like, and yes, there was some fights, but the messages were coming in clear. And I was like, let me not act like I'm not hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing this. Let me just step in. Like I saw myself like stepping into a little seed and like zipping it up and be like, I'll be in the deep dark. Like I'll go paint. I'll go travel to the trees. Like I'll go do, because I know something's coming. Let me tune into noticing. Let me tune into seeing what's emerging around me so that I can see what what is reflecting within me.
I feel very called to say this. I think so that I can hear it for myself as well. And there are people who surely need to hear this. Don't let the need to make money block you from making choices that seem like they're going to stop your bag.
Yes.
Because there's a bigger bag behind that. And the bag isn't just the physical money. It's actually all the levels of abundance that you deserve that make it so that the ebbs and flows of your financial bag cannot knock you down. And that you actually see the wealth that walks with you in a way that, again, the art of noticing, it gives you those jolts of joy that reminds you, damn, like, I don't got it to go to Turks and Caicos or whatever this year, but I went back home, went to my abuela's backyard in DR, had some fresh fruit, and I loved that because that gave me a deeper experience than the luxurious trip I could have taken this year if I would have hustled, made a million, da 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 da. And that's not to knock down people who are like great financial wizards and make hella money. But for some of those people, and I've seen it over the years, like people who started that way are now they're the spiritual girlies too. Because why? They got knocked on their ass,
Yep.
and are made to learn that art of noticing and surrender. So my gentle suggestion to you is don't maybe do it that way first, because then you don't have to go through this chaotic awakening. But maybe that's what you need. So it's my advice. But if you don't take it, then
Because I've
welcome.
definitely had chaotic awakenings as well. But after a while, you get tired of them.
Hey, I've been it backwards enough times that it's like, fuck, okay, shit. And I'm like,
This feels familiar. This feels like a pop quiz from the universe. Let me act accordingly.
literally, like this season for me is about my health. I haven't had stability in 3 years now. And I'm like, how? No, I need to focus on the bag because I need to get out of this space where money is tight. But that's survival mode. Thriving mode is I haven't been evicted. Any emergency that has presented itself in my life, I have had the resource. I have been willing to be open to community support, because that's another thing. We're so insular that we're like, oh man, if I'm not doing all of this, I don't got to be Superwoman by myself. I don't got to be Iron Man by myself. I'm an Avenger. There's a team here.
Yes.
A divine one and a physical one. And that's why healing community is important. But then like just going down that gratitude, right? Like I feel like noticing is also an act of gratitude. Like I have gratitude for the fact that even though I don't have the visibility and power and influence of some of my peers, what I have though is fucking gold. And whoever has the blessing of engaging me will feel that abundance. And it is not mine to do to be all of those conventional things that they teach you in art school when you want to be an actor. It's what you have. And when you learn how to respect and love that, the paths that will come from that are then going to be your bread and butter. Hello, cannabis plants, right? Like come to the surface. So give yourself the space, surrender, 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 and honor yourself. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. Tell us anything you have coming up. Where can we follow you and your work?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we have a really dope event that I'm super excited. We're partnering with Gadi, the Cultural Caribbean Center. Yes, African Diasporic Institute. They are amazing. They've been around for 50 years. And I'm collaborating with them and Ahime Ora, who's the author of Ancestors Said, and Charlotte James, who runs Liberation Training. We're building a day of wellness called Ecstatic Descendants. So it's a day of workshops, connecting with your Ori, connecting with warrior medicine. We're doing an ecstatic dance ceremony with Sabine Blazin, who's like going to be DJing with drummers. A whole beautiful day at their space called Ile Oyin that just opened in Harlem. So that's a way to connect with me and some of my amazing community, amazing peers. The tickets are super affordable. We want to make everything accessible. Other than that, you can catch me on Yabisi_NYC on Instagram. Our newsletter is always got rituals and medicines. And look out for our school because it'll be coming very soon.
Absolutely. If you ever wanted a Hogwarts, be on the lookout. This is going to
A
be
Puerto
amazing.
Rican Hogwarts.
Yeah. Okay. And you can find us at Ladies Who Bronche across all platforms, and we stream everywhere. Thank you so, so much for tuning in. And until next time, Bronche.